Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today we are going to look into the first sermon of the Buddha, the Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, or the turning of the wheel of Dhamma. I must tell you that I had another talk just last week on the same subject, but this is, I have made it different for you, more sort of deeper, because I know that all of you know this sutta, so therefore I made it a little deeper. I hope you will all ask questions at the end of the sutta. Right. The founder of Buddhism was Buddha. He is called Samma Sambuddha because he realized these truths by himself. His mind was liberated from ignorance, all kinds of sense pleasures, and love for existence. For 45 years, the Buddha traveled about, teaching the truth he had discovered to everyone who listened, practiced it, and gained liberation from suffering. He named it the middle way, for he had experienced the evils of both sensual pleasures and self-mortification. He said the middle way leads to vision, knowledge, peace, and nibbana. The Buddha's first pupils were 5 Brahmins who had looked after him when he practiced asceticism. The Buddha was a human being who realized this way. So, we human beings are also able to follow that way and attain enlightenment as he did. Now, what is the middle way? It is made up of 4 truths. The first is that there is suffering in this world. The second is how and why suffering takes place. The third is that it can be given up. The fourth is the way or path to end all sorrow. The essence of the discourses given by the Buddha is found in the 4 truths. The Buddha explains these 4 truths like a physician. First, he gives the diagnosis, that is, the world is founded on suffering, and suffering is a universal fact of life, which we should see and understand. So you can see these 2 words are very important. See and understand. Then he gives the cause of the disease, that is craving. Then he describes the cure for the disease, which is nirvana or nibbana. Finally, he prescribes the remedy, which is the way or path to end all sorrow. Let us look at the four truths now in detail. The first truth deals with sorrow or suffering. Birth, decay, disease, and death are unavoidable causes of suffering. Not to get what one wants or desires is suffering. To be united with things or persons we dislike, or to be separated from things and persons we like is suffering. When one works hard, diligently, honestly, but is not compensated for one's efforts, it brings sorrow. If one's hard-earned wealth is robbed or plundered, it brings sorrow. When betrayed by someone you love, it brings sorrow. All of us have felt sorrow in one way or another at some time in our lives. The second truth is the cause of sorrow. This is due to attachment and craving. There are three kinds of craving. Sensual craving, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. Through the senses, that is, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, beings are attracted to sense objects like form, sound, taste, body. I'm sorry, not body, but actually touch and thoughts, and they get enjoyment from them. This is sensual craving. Now, there are two kinds of craving. First one is, this is the first one, sensual craving. Now, but these delightful objects or the pleasure that one gets from them does not last. The being, as well as the being means the person, the individual, as well as these objects change. So the happiness is also momentary. If one enjoys these pleasures with wisdom, one should avoid craving, attachment, and not misuse the senses. It is this craving that leads beings to rebirth. Because one's craving in this world is not over, at death, one is pushed into a rebirth according to whatever karma one has done. It could be good karma, it could be bad karma. This is due to the craving for existence. Now, two kinds of craving. First is sensual, now the craving for existence. This craving can be for mental states, ideas, feelings, emotions, etc. The Buddha advises us to give up whatever evil, unwholesome thoughts that may arise due to craving and develop wholesome thoughts instead. Now, the third kind of craving, I said, is to crave for non-existence. That is, those people do not believe in another existence or rebirth. Therefore, they think that if they are finding this world a little difficult, their experiences are troublesome, then they sometimes commit suicide. They think that is the end, but that is not the end. So that is the third kind of craving. Miserliness, which is a defilement, also arises due to craving for what one does not have and wishes to possess. When craving is opposed by some cause, there will be anger and frustration. Craving is like a fire that spreads, and hate and delusion keep it burning. So, the more we crave, the more we suffer. Now, let us look at the third truth. The third truth is the total elimination or the extinction of suffering. It means the complete fading away, abandoning, and detachment from craving. One must see the delightful and pleasurable things in terms of impermanence, bringing misery, and having no self. Total fading away is possible when our clinging is given up. This will bring peace, end of karmic action, and nibbana or nirvana. It can be achieved in this life itself by following the eightfold path. Nibbana is cooling the heart and mind by getting rid of lust, hatred, and delusion. Nibbana has to be realized by meditation. It cannot be understood through the senses. The fourth truth is the way or the path to end all sorrow. It has 8 factors, namely right understanding or right view, right thought or right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are the 8 factors in the, Buddha calls it the Noble Eightfold Path. The path need not be followed one after the other, for they are linked and they are developed together. In reality, the section on morality has to be practiced first, and then the section on mental discipline, that is called samadhi. And only after that will the mind be ready to take on the section on wisdom, panya. A certain degree of right understanding or right view is necessary at the start for the other path factors to fulfill their functions. That's why in the list that I read out earlier, the factor of understanding is given the first place in the eightfold path. Now let us look at the morality section. Morality is essential for both lay as well as monastics because it is the foundation for the other 2 sections of the path. The aim of morality is the control of our speech and physical activities, bodily activities. Virtue aids the cultivation of concentration and helps to calm and steady the mind. It also helps to abstain from the unwholesome and adhere to the wholesome. As at the karmic level, virtue helps to gain favorable results in the round of repeated births and deaths. Because if you do good karma, wholesome karma, and you have not finished your existence, you will go into a good existence in the next life, a good rebirth. These moral principles aim at making a secure society through unifying everybody with understanding among people. The Dhammapada verse says, to abstain from all evil, to cultivate the good, and to purify the mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Now, the second factor in the morality group is right speech. Right speech is to abstain from falsehood and to speak the truth. To abstain from tale carrying, which brings about conflict and disharmony. To abstain from harsh and abusive speech. Instead of speaking kind and refined words, and abstain from idle chatter and gossip. We should use speech for our own and others' welfare. If people are thoughtful and gentle in what they say and more accurate and sincere in what they write, much trouble and misunderstanding could be avoided. Our speech should be free from greed, hatred, jealousy, pride, and selfishness. The next one is right action. That promotes moral, honorable, and peaceful conduct. Practicing the 5 precepts or moral codes or guidelines of not killing but saving, showing compassion and kindness, not stealing but respecting others' rights and ownership, not abusing the senses, not uttering untruths, etc., and not taking intoxicants and drugs will automatically promote right action. If we keep the 5 precepts in this world, the world will be a very nice place to live in. The next one is right livelihood. That is to engage in a profession that does not harm other beings and not trade in weapons, intoxicants, drugs, or poison, or cheating and prostitution. Now that is the first part, the morality part. Now we come to the second part of the eightfold path, that is called mental discipline or samadhi. It includes right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Now, what is right effort? That is a wholesome form of energy. Now, effort means there is energy directed to liberation from suffering. As each individual has to find one's own deliverance, not even the Buddha can take you to Nibbana. Effort is very important. As the starting point is a deluded mind. You know, our normal mind is a deluded mind in the world, right? Which has to be transformed into a purified one through wisdom. Energy is essential. Right effort has 4 kinds of striving. The first one is to prevent the arising of unwholesome states. Now, if I am not going into detail, but you can understand that now we have certain good qualities, but sometimes something bad might come into our mind. So that is what it means, to prevent the arising of unwholesome state. Do not allow bad things to come in that are not there already. To abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. There may be bad things, anger and jealousy and pride and all kinds of bad things in our mind. So, to try and abandon them, to get rid of them. The third one is to arouse wholesome states that have not yet arisen. Now, you may be a very good person, but still there may be some good things that still you can, cultivate some more things which will make you even better. So, to do that. Then the fourth one is to maintain and perfect wholesome states already arisen. Everyone, even a criminal, has some good in them. So, whatever good you have, to maintain them, to keep them, not to allow them to be, to go away. Okay, now that is what we call right effort. Now we go to the next one, right mindfulness. Right mindfulness is obtained when the mind is trained to be in the present, quietly alert, leaving aside all judgments and note what's happening now, here and now. All the time we are thinking of the past or the future, right? Not the present. So, then it does not get away to the past, present or future, bringing memories, regrets, fears and hopes. All of us may have done certain bad things, good things too. But we can, let them be. This is made difficult due to defilements that are embedded in the mind which come up to the surface when an event takes place. When something happens, the underlying tendencies, they are called, what is in our subconscious, they come up and join this present thing, whatever has happened, and it makes it even worse. So, this is a quality that has to be fostered and trained so that it becomes second nature, that is mindfulness. To be fully aware of one's behavior and recognize any weaknesses or strengths, mindfulness is necessary. After all, nobody else knows us better than ourselves, isn't that so? So we know if we are good or if we are thinking well or if we are mindful, we know, not the other person. To think properly and see the ideas as they arise in the mind, whether good or bad, mindfulness is necessary. This is essential in all our actions, both worldly and spiritual. In order to meditate, attain concentration, calm and tranquility, and also to understand life as it really is and live correctly, mindfulness is necessary. This is the factor that helps us to control our mind and body and finally attain Nibbana or Nirvana. Now the third factor in that section is right concentration. This is a mental state. Concentration fixes the mind well and does not let it to move or be disturbed when we are meditating. The correct way to concentrate keeps the mind well balanced. When other outside defilements set in during meditation, right effort and right mindfulness helps to get rid of these defilements and maintain concentration. You can see these three things are always go together. When well concentrated, the mind is able to see things as they really are. It's only when the mind is controlled by concentration and mindfulness that it will be useful. It will bring happiness too. When the mind is calm, one does not get upset by the changes in life. At this point, the mind is free from defilements like anger, lust, restlessness, doubt, and sleepiness. But this state is not permanent, for one has to continue practicing meditation on a regular basis to gain deeper knowledge. The most important knowledge that should be gained is impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. This is achieved through vipassana meditation. That is what Buddha also did. The last section, that is actually the first one in the list, in the three-way division, is wisdom. It has two factors, that is right understanding and right intention. Right understanding or right view is the guide for all the other factors. Right view is the whole of Dhamma. For the Buddha says that there is no factor so helpful for the arising of wholesome states as right view, and the arising of unwholesome states as wrong view. Wrong view is the factor that makes a person's mind unwholesome, and unwholesome factors arise when you have wrong view. There are two kinds of right view, mundane and supramundane, that is worldly and unworldly. Mundane right view involves understanding karma, the moral effect of action. Virtuous actions like giving, caring for one's parents, knowing that there is rebirth and a world beyond the visible one, performing wholesome acts, bring good results. The unwholesome roots are greed, hatred, and delusion. Whatever action is done under these roots would bring painful results. A karma may ripen in a rebirth. That is, due to the karma, the next rebirth takes place. Or in the course of a lifetime, or in a subsequent life. So karma can give results even much later. Though good karma may lead to a happy life, it does not lead to liberation. Understanding the four truths is superior right view. Understanding the four truths correctly, not just intellectually. Also, understanding the five aggregates, that is, form, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness, are dukkha or suffering. To know that they bring only dukkha, that is the mind and the body. They are changing all the time. So, they do not have a permanent self. A knowledge of impermanence, suffering, and no self is right understanding. Attaining Nibbana is the only way to peace and perfect happiness. Now the next one in that section, right intention. The Buddha explains is the intention of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. These are opposed to the unwholesome roots of desire, ill will, and harming. When we start practicing the Eightfold Path, right view and right intention start to restrain the ill effects of three unwholesome roots. Renunciation means turning away from craving and attachment. Real renunciation is not entirely giving up everything we value, but changing our vision about them so that they no longer hold us. Knowing that the desire for them brings dukkha or suffering, but renouncing them brings happiness, peace, and fearlessness. The remedy for ill will is metta or loving kindness. Not only do we gain goodwill by this practice, but we also reap good karma. Harmlessness develops compassion and opposes cruelty and violence. Compassion wishes others to be free from suffering. Now, friends, I have come to the end of the Four Noble Truths. But there is one thing that I would like to tell you, if you have the patience and the time to spend a little more time with me. Now, that is one other thing that the Buddha realized or discovered that day. That is called dependent origination. I am not going to give it a detailed description of it because I can do another sutta on that subject. But just for you to know that this is also another thing that the Buddha realized that day. And it is a very important factor that the Buddha discovered. Dependent origination. Wait, I will now tell you what it is. The first is that Buddha gives in one line what it is, like this. When this cause exists, this effect is. That is, when this cause is there, the effect also will come. With the arising of this cause, this effect arises. And then the opposite of it. That is, when this cause is not there, the effect will not be there. So now let me tell you, there are 12 links to this. These are the 12 links. Now you know that Buddha has said that when he looked at his own rebirths, he could not see any beginning. When he looked at others' rebirths, there also he could not see any beginning. So, but Buddha says, though there was no beginning, we can have an end. So, Now, when you say, start with this, that doesn't mean that it is this ignorance that started it all. But Buddha has said it like this. Dependent on ignorance or avijja arise moral and immoral conditioning activities. They are called sankhara. The conditioned activities that we get, do all the time are due to ignorance. Dependent on ignorance, arise sankhara or conditioning activities. Dependent on conditioning activities arises relinking consciousness or vijnana. Relinking consciousness means that from one birth to the next, it is the link, that consciousness. Then, dependent on relinking consciousness, arise mind and matter. That is, mind and matter means the mind and the body. Dependent on the mind and matter arise the six sensors, salayatana. Then, dependent on the six spheres of sense arises contact. It is with our eyes, ears, and so on that we contact things. Then, dependent on contact arises feeling. Dependent on feeling arises craving. Dependent on craving arises grasping, holding on. Dependent on grasping arises becoming, bhava. Dependent on becoming arises birth. Now we come to birth, how the birth happens. Dependent on birth arises decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Can you see? It is birth that gives rise to all this suffering. Thus does this whole mass of suffering originate. So now that is called the dependent origination, because each one depends on the other. Now once we break it, then the whole mass will disappear. So now that I have come to the end of what I want to say. If there are any questions, please ask. All are silent.
Bhikkhuni, this is Aruna.
Yes, Aruna.
So at some point you mentioned about craving for non-existence.
Yeah.
So can you please elaborate a little bit about craving for non-existence?
Yes. Now I said that ultimately it can lead to suicide too. I think you remember that. Now,
yes.
Why do people not have, or why do people have the liking for non-existence? Now let us see. Now someone has a lot of trouble, a lot of difficulty, a lot of suffering, all of course created by oneself. But usually people are used to blaming somebody else for not being able to work in the office, not being able to carry on the activities in the house, not being able, everything. So in the end, that person thinks, after all, this is the only life. I am going to, I'm not going to be reborn. Now, such people don't believe in a rebirth. So I won't be able to stand this for some more years, say till about, now this may be very often a young person. I can't stand, wait till about 60, 70 years. If I finish this now, it's all over. So therefore, I can take my life. it'll be over. But so that is the kind of attitude that such people have, and that is a very wrong attitude actually, because although they think that there will not be a rebirth, now Buddha has said whether you kill another person or whether you kill yourself, it comes to the same thing, the same result, because after all you kill somebody. So therefore, if you kill and then commit suicide, then your karma is going to be very bad. So the person who does such a thing has thinks that this is the only life that they have, and with that idea, thinking that that person is going to finish up all the difficulties, troubles and suffering, commit suicide. That is the person who has a belief in non-existence. Even when during the Buddha's time, there were some teachers who believed in this particular factor, and therefore they said, now this body and mind is just this body and mind made up of the elements. So even if somebody kills and kills all the people in this village, that person is not going to get any bad effects for that, because they have only just killed means finished or sent a sword through the person's body. It has no effect. So there were teachers who believed like that. So that is why the Buddha said that there are some people who believe in non-existence.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? My friend Padmini usually has some...
Yes, I am thinking what to ask Bhikkhuni Vahansa. I am thinking that like Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Paths, we can use them as a kamatahan, like a focus for our meditation. How to do that? Some like samadhi, samma samadhi. Samadhi is we are going to do the concentrations, but if there are any kamatahan from that to do meditation out of that.
I'm going to take a page from Banteji, because in the morning today he gave an answer exactly to that question.
Yeah, yes.
That is, he said, mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is, when I explain mindfulness here, I explained it just as taking it as one factor. But mindfulness you find in so many sections of the Dhamma. Now, for instance, enlightenment factors, you get mindfulness. Bojjhanga, you find mindfulness. Then in certain parittas, you find mindfulness. So like that, as mindfulness or sati is a factor in so many parts of the Dhamma. And according to Bhanteji, he said that you can use it as a factor of as one point of meditation, and this is how he said it. He said that now mindfulness is something that you have to cultivate, right?
Yes.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I think it will be useful for others too. because mindfulness is something that we always don't have, though we think we have. Mindfulness is something we have to cultivate, because otherwise we think we are doing it mindfully, but at the same time we are not. So now what happens is, now when we are practicing mindfulness, we know when we have mindfulness. And according to the Satipatthana Sutta, when we don't have mindfulness also, we know we don't have mindfulness. So both, whether we know that we have mindfulness or whether we don't have mindfulness, that means that we are getting mindfulness. Now if we are mindful and we know that we are mindful, all right, we are mindful and we have mindfulness. But if we don't have mindfulness, the very time that we realize that we don't have mindfulness, we have come back to mindfulness. Yeah. So that now I'm practicing mindfulness. So from that time onwards, again, till the time that you find that it has gone, you are mindful. So when you are mindful, when you sit down to meditate, there won't be restlessness, there won't be doubt, there won't be sleepiness, there won't be, the hindrances. Yeah. So many of them will not be there when you are mindful. So for meditation, mindfulness meditation is the best meditation that you can have. So all the time you can be mindful, so that even when you are not sitting down on the cushion, the meditation can continue, because it is a state of mind, mental discipline.
Yeah. So okay. You are working, you are cooking, you are reading, anytime exactly. You have to be sati. You can be that's mindfulness. Right. And today morning, Banteji mentioned that sati indriya. That he mentioned, sati bala and sati indriya.
Yeah, all those are the places where sati is mentioned.
Mentioned, yes. Yeah.
So any others?
Yeah, that's it. For me, Bohoma Ping Bhikshuni Vahansa.
Okay. So others also, please talk. Please say something. If you have any questions to ask, it might help the others too. Deepa, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I don't see you, but I see the name.
Well, yes.
Okay, Danny.
I have a question.
Very good. Yes.
Did the Buddha ever have trouble with people who don't have any faith, or they don't believe in the Dhamma? Did the Buddha ever have difficulties with people who don't keep the precepts, who practice unrighteousness, and how did he overcome people who are telling him things that are not good?
Okay, I understand the question now. Okay, now the Buddha, I must first tell you that the Buddha's 5 precepts, or the precepts that are there for monastics as well as for the lay people, they are not commandments, right? Not like in other religions, they are not commandments, because the Buddha is not a savior. The Buddha is not a savior in the sense of God. So what the Buddha says is, whatever you do for yourself. And if you have any suffering, difficulty, trouble in this life, that is because of certain things that you have already done, and you are getting the result. So now, if you don't, if you do bad things now, you are going to get the result immediately in this life, or in the next life, or in a subsequent life. So, and the Buddha would never try to force people to, follow the precepts. He would tell them, these are the consequences, these are the results. So when you do this, this is the result. So he leaves it to them. Now there is a sutta, I think you have joined me in doing that, the Kalama Sutta. In that the Buddha says to the Kalamas, because the Kalamas were asking the Buddha about this particular thing. And the Buddha asked the Kalamas, now what do you think? Is anger a good thing? So the Kalamas said, no. Is lust a good thing? No. Is pride a good thing? Like that he asked, about the defilement. So for each one, the Kalamas say, no, they are not good things. Then the Buddha said, then what do you think? Then what do you think? If you do them, these are the bad results you will get. So, are you going to do them? So the Kalama said, no, we are not going to do that. So that is how you have to look at the Dhamma. See the Dhamma and understand the Dhamma. And before you start practicing, you must see whether they are going to affect you for your good or for worse. And then the Kalama said, you are perfectly right, sir. We are going to be, we are going to keep the precept. We are going to, we go to you for refuge. We go to the Dhamma for refuge. We go to the Sangha for refuge. So that way, it is not, none of these things ever bothered the Buddha, because the Buddha was beyond that. But the Buddha always tried for 45 years to help all the people who would listen to him. There were many people who did not listen. Now, for instance, there was a family just near the temple of Jetavana, where Buddha lived. And he was, the man was man who killed pigs. Yes, and then told them and gave them the children also and his wife. And in the end, he suffered so much in this world itself. And then he went to hell. So therefore, the Buddha only tried to help people, those who would help themselves. Those who could not, there were lots of people who would not listen. But that can't be helped. Even today, it is the same, isn't it? Right, Danny?
Okay.
Got the answer?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.